Hello everyone, welcome to Health Australia Party. I'm Molly. Tonight we've got a really interesting talk about the Omnibus Bill, Victoria. And tonight we're talking with Matt Wong. Now, Matt's a very interesting character. I don't know too many people who've studied law twice because they've wanted to, but he has. He started off as a trainee pilot, then moved into law, and then for whatever reasons didn't like that, and then he switched and went into business and did his MBA. So he's got a really varied and interesting career, and a lot of knowledge comes with all that learning and experience. So welcome, Matt. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Molly. Hello to everyone.
So tonight, Matt, I want to talk to you about Victoria, wonderful Victoria.
It's a sad story.
It's a very sad story, but this COVID virus obviously loves Victoria because it's the only state that has such draconian measures in place. So around the world, as far as I know, nobody is shut down like Victoria is, and they're trying to even enforce it more with an omnibus bill. Can you please tell me what an omnibus bill is?
It's a very common thing where we need to make a lot of small changes to an act. So an act is just a piece of legislation, a law, and a bill is a baby act. Once it gets voted into law, it becomes an act. So when we have to edit a lot of acts at the same time, we pass an omnibus bill. Now, the problem with this omnibus bill, of course, is that it's not just a whole bunch of little things. It's a whole bunch of little things plus a sneaky little insertion at the end there.
Yeah, it covers quite a few areas, doesn't it, of government? The juvenile area, the health area, and so in this bill, what do you think are the most important points that Victorians need to, one, be aware of, and to do something about? What are the points that need to be stressed to the people that this is taking away so much more of their freedoms? I believe anyway, that's what's happening.
Do you want me to jump straight to the horrors of it?
Yes, please, Matt. As bad as it can get, jump in.
You're not alone in thinking that. You're in good company. Former Chief Justice of the High Court of Australia, Justice McHugh, a number of distinguished QCs have all come out today, twice actually. Today they came out, and a different lot came out a couple of days ago writing an open letter. What we're looking at now is the most authoritarian laws that we have ever seen in Australia, that are more akin to a despotic society, which we would never have dreamed could come to Australia. So I guess if we cut right to the point, we are looking at a bill that is going to allow the Department of Health and Human Services to appoint anybody to become a delegated authorised officer to exercise the emergency powers which are contained in Section 200 of our Public Health and Wellbeing Act. And that's things like locking us down. The scary part is not so much that they're going to exercise these powers for a further 6 months. It's that anyone is going to be able to do it, that they appoint even with no qualifications, and they're going to be able to detain us before we commit crimes. So we're entering into a world of pre-crime enforcement, similar to Minority Report, the movie with Tom Cruise.
That doesn't really make sense unless suddenly all these people are great psychics and can predict what crime's coming.
Well, it seems odd that you would put very tricky and discretionary powers into the most untrained. I mean, at the moment, we're seeing VicPol, Victoria Police, do some things that are, they're making a lot of mistakes. And even if it's a minority of their very well-trained force, they're a very well-trained force. And so to think we are now going to put even further discretionary powers into the hands of PSOs, public safety officers, I think they're called, or even public servants. And that's not an exaggeration. In the front of the bill, there's an explanatory memorandum, and it literally says that they want to put this power into the hands of public servants.
This doesn't make any sense to me. None of this in Victoria is making any sense.
Well, a lot of us are trying to figure out why, and there are theories. You know, there's the more fringe, I guess. It feels mean when I say fringe. I don't mean that in a bad way, but I guess there's less of them on the right, far right, who would say, "Oh, he's evil. He wants to sell us to China. He's trying to take over the country and make us into gulags like Nazi Germany." Then you got the other side on the left who are irrationally saying, "I stand with Dan. He can do no wrong." I sit somewhere in the middle. I really think that he's unfortunately destroying our state in many ways. And it's not just my opinion. It's the Deputy Lord Mayor of Melbourne, who I interviewed a couple of days ago. It's Jim Penman from Jim's Mowing, who was in this room yesterday. It's these people who are on the front line who are telling me how our state is being destroyed. Not just economically. I've had the COVID doctors in here, in this room, the ones who originally wrote that letter, the original 12 or 13. And they've been telling me we are destroying this state. We are destroying the health of this state because of the increased deaths and so on that were causing mental health harms. I've even had today I interviewed Sanjeev Sublock. He's the economist who resigned in protest from the Department of Treasury and Finance.
Yes.
And he's saying we are killing people. So yeah, we're doing a very bad thing down here, but I believe that Dan is trying to save us. I think he's on a crusade, and I think he's trying to save the state, and unfortunately he's destroying the state. And that's the only thing I can think that can explain the craziness, the absurdity of it, and why he doubles down and triples down on some of his policies.
But Matt, what is it he's trying to save Victoria from?
The coronavirus that's going to kill us all.
That's proven to be no worse than normal flu, but in fact, cancer death rate, heart disease, regular influenza deaths are all down because COVID numbers are up. So there's something quite corrupt in that to start with.
I didn't come on here to hear a whole lot of reason, Molly. Get out of here with your facts and your reason and rationality.
Sorry. How silly of me. Yes. Why? What is it he's saving us from? Because you cannot, even if this is a true new virus, you can't protect people from viruses. They are everywhere. They're on my glasses, in my hair, on my little headband. I'm breathing them. They are everywhere. So no matter how much you lock down people, you cannot stop this.
The viruses aren't all bad either. I mean, from a evolutionary biology perspective, they are part of, if you believe in it, they're part of the evolution of the human species. But look, I think there's another theory as well, which is more rational perhaps than even my theory. And that is from political insiders who have told me that he's simply too deep. He's so deep he can't turn around and admit fault.
Right. Yeah. So he would, he just can't admit that he's gotten it wrong and step back from it.
Well, I can give you some interesting things, right? So there's three things. Vic Pol. So I have a contact a contact who has contacts inside Vic Pol, and they're currently doing exercises with the ADF here in Melbourne. And they are saying that the morale in Vic Pol is the lowest it's ever been in a Vic Pol generation. So in 10, 15 years of recruits. The ADF are saying they are not enjoying working with Vic Pol, so much so that you'll see in some videos where there's one in particular where there's an ADF member and a Vic Pol harassing a lady for sitting down pregnant on a park bench. And the ADF member turns away from the camera and just keeps right away from it. I think it's becoming toxic. They're losing their social license here in Victoria. So that's the first of all. Second of all, the economist from the Department of Treasury and Finance today told me that almost unanimously, every single economist within Treasury and Finance in Victoria agrees with his views, which is anti-lockdown and we're killing people. And he resigned in protest, and he's been in the news everywhere.
Yes.
He thinks there's one, maybe two out of the 100 economists within our department that are pro what Dan's doing, and that our Treasury Department is advising Dan to do things differently and is frustrated that our Premier is ignoring the advice being given to him.
So that, it just doesn't make sense. So he's ignoring health advice. He's ignoring advice on the economy. There has to be a reason, apart from his ego, apart from him thinking he'll look stupid if he winds it back. I don't know. I don't know about the conspiracies that are going around, but something is very wrong here.
Something is very wrong. But I'm encouraged that if you think about, well, I mean, we can start at a Star Wars quote and get more complex from there. But even the Star Wars quote does it best when it says, "This is how democracy dies to thunderous applause." And it really sums up a lot of philosophical thought in that we don't see dictatorships arise in protest. You always see them arise with the consent of the people. So the fact that Victoria is turning, we are seeing QCs come out now, businesses come out, so many people are coming out now, even the left-wing media are turning. I have great hope for Victoria, because if they're waking up, then I don't think we're going to go full dictator, Dan.
Okay, well, that would be, yes, that would be wonderful. Now, in this bill, and I was having a look at it earlier today, there seems to be, and the media have definitely focused on this a little bit, that these people, if this bill gets through the upper house or the Legislative Council, it is in Victoria, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
So if it gets passed, that these people with these new powers can detain children. I mean, they could actually remove them.
No. Calm down, everyone. Calm down. I go to great pains to make sure that, you know, all of my content, I assume you found me through that video I made, is accurate. The reason why I didn't bring up the children is it's causing a lot of fear. My inbox is flooded with mums afraid that their children will be taken away. So
Yeah, absolutely.
The power to remove children has always been there. And it's generally what's intended to be used in the case of delinquent parents and so on, right? We know that. It's always rested with the courts. So the courts have the ability to make those orders and family reunification orders and so on. Now, in the bill, it does make changes to some of those acts and the ability to extend family reunification orders and so on. However, it does not centralize power into the hands of the executive branch of government, into the authorized officers or the police. It still specifically says that the courts can. And let me say something about the courts. We must have some faith in our courts. In Victoria, you have to understand what's happening here is 100% not the fault of the courts. The courts have not been allowed to speak. So we have a separation of powers, you know, judiciary, executive and legislative. People who make the laws, people who enforce the laws, the police, and people who judge whether we've broken the law or not. So at the moment, every single COVID fine, not a single one has made it through to the courts yet. This is our Attorney General admitting this in the Parliamentary Accounts and Estimates Committee. Now, one of the theories is that they don't want it to get to the courts. Now, putting the theory aside, it's true that the laws are not being tested because they're not getting to the courts. So the judiciary, the judges, the courts have not been able to speak. So we should not be angry at them. In fact, I am hopeful that the most left-wing state in Australia, the most progressive, lenient judges in Australia are here. So I'm hopeful that when it does get to the courts, we'll finally get to see them play their hand. And I suspect they are going to throw out quite a lot.
Yeah, okay. Yes, I guess if you look at a bigger picture, overall, most people have a lot of common sense, don't they?
Especially our judiciary, yes. I know we have some weird stuff happening in the courts, but on the whole, they're very good.
We've gone, sorry people, I don't know if anyone can see me or...
You're back.
Oh, we just went blank. Sorry, everybody. I don't know what's happening. Some of my emails have been disappearing and all sorts of funny things happening. Anyway, okay. So yeah, so most people do have common sense and understand that this perhaps has been handled in a very interesting manner, but. With this omnibus bill, you know, this has passed your lower house. So that means there's a lot of politicians who are saying, yep, let's go for these changes.
Okay, so this is an interesting story. It passed in the lower house because Dan Andrews' Labor government, Victoria, has a massive majority in our lower house, and so everything passes. However, I've just been told about 10 minutes ago before I jumped on with you from someone who works in Spring Street in politics down here, that many of the Labor MPs who are voting for it don't want to. Now, it makes sense that they have to follow party lines. They don't like it, and a lot of them have supported the tilt at Dan's leadership last week, where Tim Pallas was the front runner. He did the numbers, didn't get the numbers, and so that's why we saw him coming out, standing, supporting Dan. This happens with every challenge. It happened with Turnbull and Peter Dutton. It always happens. They do a first round, they don't get the numbers, and they come out and support them. So that's first of all. And I've been given a name of one that I need to chase down because they really don't like what Dan's doing. See if I can interview them. So that's good news. Now, the Greens have come out saying they don't support this bill because it's bad and it's scary and it's arbitrary, and they will vote against it in the upper house. However, don't forget, everyone, those hypocrites called the Greens voted for it in the lower house. So there you go.
Yeah.
Good news, though, the crossbenchers. So this is where it will fail, hopefully. In the upper house, it's going to get there in the beginning to the middle of October. So we have a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And we lost the state of emergency fight by one vote. It was 21-19 on the measures that mattered. So if one flipped, it would have been 2020. So it fails. It has to win by a majority. So the upper house, we've already had Fiona Patten, who voted for the state of emergency. She's come out publicly and said she won't support this bill in its current form. So I think just by that, we've won. The Greens have said that they won't support it in the upper house either. And that gives me hope that it won't pass. But that said, this is the most serious thing I've seen I'm only in my 30s. So maybe that doesn't hold much weight, but other older people have said it's the most serious change to laws they've seen in their lifetimes. You see the lawyers, on LinkedIn, the lawyers around there are saying it. So we need to fight.
So how do people do that? How do the public actually see what's happening, and how do they get their voice heard?
See what's happening, do you mean by like what I did explaining it?
Yeah. With this bill, I'm absolutely amazed at the compliance of Victorians with everything that's been happening. I don't understand how they sit back and maybe they're only seeing the news on Channel 7 or 9 or whatever, and they're not really looking deeper at what's going on. But to be singled out as a state with such severe restrictions when all around the world the information is changing about how this virus is affecting people and the severity of it. We know it's no worse than the flu. Why are they so compliant? See, I don't understand that. And so will they just be compliant with this bill? Will they sit back and say, yes, Dan, come on, bring it on? Why aren't they jumping up and down? And if they want to jump up and down, how do they jump up and down? What do they do?
Well, first of all,
be effective?
we have been squashed. If you look at the protest numbers around different cities in support of Victoria, you've had in Brisbane, I can't remember what you had, 1,000 people or something up there. Sydney, you saw at Olympic Park a couple of weeks ago, you had a lot of people there. And the number of people who were intending to protest down here was very large. We had a Facebook group, just Melbourne. There was a Facebook group with over 115,000 members in it. 20,000 odd said that, yes, they were going to the event. Even if a quarter showed up or a fifth showed up, we're talking about a couple of thousand people in protest. But we've had some of the most extreme draconian enforcements by police. I did a video of the Queen Victoria markets. I was there that day buying seafood. I couldn't believe what I saw. We are being scared into we've had protests now every week since then of 100 people. So it's obvious to me that even statistically speaking, it's the curfews, it's the 5-kilometer limit, it's the arresting for posting things on Facebook, it's the intimidation. It's normal people like myself have decoy phones now in case we get raided by the police. It's a joke. So first of all, I think that there is a resistance. It's just that we're being squashed. What can we do? Well, mass civil disobedience would work. However, I would never suggest illegalities. I don't want to be raided by VicPol. And I don't think Victorians have the stomach for it. I think, like you say, we roll over and we just allow the government to do what they like. So the only thing we can do is fight within the system. And that's what they do, for example, with my friend Monica. She runs that page, Reignite Democracy Australia. It's a respectful page where they do campaigns to email MPs and so on. I know you guys have something. You have a tool where you can put in your address or something and it'll tell you who your MPs are, so you can get their email address or whatever. So contacting the Labor MPs is key because a lot of them are dissatisfied with what's going on.
Yeah, that's good to know, because you don't sort of hear that out there. So that's really good information.
I wouldn't bother contacting the Liberals. I interview them in this room. I talk to them. I wouldn't bother. They're all on board. Don't waste their time. They're all voting against it. I wouldn't bother contacting David Limbrick from the Liberal Democrats or Tim Quilty. They're all voting against it. It's the Labor people. We really need to convince them this coup to happen. We need them to. We needed that coup to win. You know, the Tim Pallas leadership challenge. Something like that would be very, very good. It wouldn't solve the problem. Like Labor would still be in, but they would be forced to make significant changes to their policy to justify the coup. That is a win. But other than that, we have to wake up is more important. We need to open our eyes and see what's happening in front of us. And this goes for other states as well. You have to understand that governments, it's not about what's legal, it's about what they can get away with. And we even had Dan Andrews today saying that the reason he locked down those towers was not because of powers under the Public Health and Wellbeing Act state of emergency. Now he's claiming that they simply secured the site as the landlords of the government towers. So now he's saying that as the landlords, he used VicPol to secure it in what would amount to a legal tort of false imprisonment. So it's all over the place, but he gets away with it. So please don't allow other states, your states, to get away with this, because pollies will look to Victoria and they'll see if the people of Victoria put up with it, then maybe the people of, let's say, WA will put up with forced vaccinations, which is exactly what's written into their Public Health Act, as in they can tie you down and inject you with what could be a perfectly safe vaccine. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but I'm just telling you, it's in the Public Health Act.
Yeah, that's enormously scary, because we don't know what's in it. And there's a lot of information about vaccination programs around the world that have gone belly up very seriously. So, yeah, when we don't know, we don't have true choice.
Molly, sorry to interrupt. Can I just emphasize too, you got to understand who this is coming from. I'm telling you to be careful of the vaccination thing in WA. I'm a fan of vaccinations. I'm vaccinated. My kids are vaccinated. So if I'm telling you to be careful, then holy hell, there's something going wrong.
Yeah, look, a lot of people that are they're vaccinated. They believe in vaccines, and they're saying, I don't know about this vaccine because it's so rushed.
I'm not taking that one. No way.
Yeah, no. I think I don't think many people will be silly enough to take something that's not been well trialed and so on. I guess for me, I'm in New South Wales, so I look at it and I think, okay, so if Victoria rolls on all of this, where does that leave the rest of Australia? Because Queensland, WA, they could certainly follow suit quite quickly. And then we've got the other states that, I guess they may like the control or whatever it is. I don't know what's in these minds of these people, but we have to, all of Australia needs to be aware of what's going on and, talk to your members of parliament. You're right. Just contact them. Matt, can we just backtrack a little bit?
Sure.
Are you able to just discuss a little bit, because I know you know quite a bit about this, what is actually in this bill? What are the other, the forced vaccination is one of it.
Oh, that's not in this bill. That's in WA's
health Act. WA's health bill.
Yeah. Health Act. I think it's in their current act. Yeah. We don't have anything like that in Victoria.
So what's in this omnibus bill? What is actually in it?
So I'm just pulling it up in front of me now. So did you want to know about the good? There's a whole lot of good stuff. I assume you don't want to know about that. Just, the ability for courts to conduct things via Zoom and all of that, that's all fine.
Yeah.
Is it the bad stuff you wanted to know about?
Mostly, that's the stuff that scares people, the stuff that takes away their freedoms and their rights as a human being. So, let's have a look at that.
Just cut me off if I don't know how long. I forgot to ask how long we're interviewing for, so I don't want to keep you too long. I've got plenty of time. But
okay.
If you look at...
lay it all out.
Okay. So if you look at the bill, which you can get from... where would you get it from? I think it's at legislation.vic.gov.au. And it is called the COVID-19 Omnibus Emergency Measures and Other Acts Amendment Bill 2020. It's only 45 pages long, and half of that is the explanatory memorandum, which I said was at the front of the bill. But if you go down to page COVID-19 temporary measures, which is down sort of, I think, page 11-ish. Here we're talking about, for example, section 250 of the bill, which is intending to add section 30 into the act. So a new section 30 subsection 1 is going to say that the secretary, so the secretary of DHHS, by instrument, this is important. Instrument means just a piece of paper that they sign. So in our country, we have acts, and then we have regulations. Regulations are not voted on, and then legislative instruments, which sit below, which is literally just a letter that someone signs. So the secretary by instrument may appoint any of the following to be an authorized officer. So these are the people who can exercise the emergency powers. This is the condition. A person the secretary considers appropriate for appointment based on the person's skills, abilities, experience, or otherwise. And do you know what other qualifications are listed or is required? It's none. That's it. So just the secretary has to consider that they're appropriate for appointment based on skills, attributes, experience, or otherwise. Now, this is not an exaggeration. In the explanatory memorandum, if you scroll up to the top of that bill, it literally says that this new section 30 subsection 1 is intended to enable DHHS to appoint public servants to exercise these powers. If you think about these powers, we're talking about significant powers which are found in section 200 of the Public Health and Wellbeing Act. They're things like detaining people and so on. Now, that is scary because at the moment we're seeing VicPol make a lot of errors, and they're highly trained. We're talking about people who are untrained. How many errors are they going to make? But it goes on. There are more bad things that they're sneaking in through this omnibus. We already have section 192 of the Public Health and Wellbeing Act, which is allows people to assist anyone who's exercising emergency powers. So anyone, there's no qualification on that. So if the law says currently now, if let's say a police officer is trying to detain someone under emergency powers, any other citizen, any other human in this state can assist that officer. So the ability to recruit others. So now we're talking about, say, public servant coming to your door with the help of, I don't know, your neighbor exercising some of these powers. Now that's scary enough. Section 200 powers is scary enough. They want to introduce a new section. This is called further emergency powers. This is a new section called section 200A for Apple. Further emergency powers say that a designated authorized officer, which is now public servants or whoever they want, may detain a person under section 200, which are those powers, if a direction has been given in the exercise of an emergency power. So just give a direction. And this is the key. The designated authorized officer reasonably believes that a person who is required to comply is a high-risk person and is likely to refuse or fail to comply. So it's saying that the officer has to make a prediction now that you are likely to refuse or fail to comply. And if you are likely to refuse or fail to comply, maybe someone like me who's on a podcast with Health Australia Party is likely or refused. I don't know. It's in the minds of that public servant who comes to my door.
Yes.
They can detain me.
So what does that mean? When they detain you, where do you go?
It's detainment and forcible removal. So they can put you in a facility like hotel quarantine. And to be fair to the government, they are saying that, look, there are some people with mental health issues or some people who are so out there in terms of repeated offences against the COVID directions that they're very high risk and likely to disobey these orders. So we have to preemptively lock them up. Now, I mean, that's ridiculous. That's such an abrogation of liberties, but that's what the government is saying. And I understand why they're saying that.
Yes.
So detainment, okay, there is no limit. So there is no recourse to the courts either. This is the huge thing. Usually when you detain someone, they can call on the courts to complain. There's nothing left. Perhaps maybe for the legal nerds out there, they could issue writs of habeas corpus, which is, you know, you can look that up, but it's very unlikely. Overall, you're stuck in there as long as the authorized officer or the department does this to you. But keep in mind, there were the two conditions, right? They had to believe that you're likely to disobey and you had to be a high-risk person. And this bill defines a high-risk person as someone with COVID-19 positive test result or has had close contact with someone who has had a positive COVID-19 test result. So the effect of this bill is going to make tests go down. I mean, do you think, why the hell am I going to get tested for COVID-19 now and become a high-risk person?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to get tested. Why would I?
Yeah, no, you wouldn't. You wouldn't. Puts you at a higher risk.
Oh, so that's it. I mean, that's the powers, and that's what they can do. So overall, it's preemptive, pre-crime. It's like Minority Report, the movie with Tom Cruise. It's preemptive detention based on a loosened standard of just predicting someone, and that prediction is now coming from a very diffuse and diverse, untrained, potentially untrained population.
Yeah, it could be anyone, couldn't it? I mean, I don't know. I don't get it. I seriously don't understand how any politician can say this is okay. No matter how deep a hole they've dug for themselves, it just makes no sense.
Well, look, I think it does if can I read a quote to you?
Yes, please.
Do you know C.S. Lewis?
No.
He wrote Narnia.
Sorry? Oh.
C.S. Lewis?
Yep.
He's written a lot of things besides Narnia, but just a short quote which kind of sums it up. He says, "Of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. It would be better to live under robber barons than under omnipotent moral busybodies, because the robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep. His cupidity or greed may at some point be satiated. But those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with the approval of their own conscience." And I think this is the big problem we're facing in Victoria. Those who are for Dan, for the lockdowns, and for Dan and his friends, they truly believe they're doing the right thing, and there's no end to the destruction they're causing because they're doing it with the approval of their own conscience. And that is why lately I've been fighting by interviewing people and publicizing them who are focusing on the conscience side of things. Like, why can't we let our kids go back to school? Why is it okay that that couple dropped their kids off to the grandparents, killed themselves, but it's not okay that the 95-year-old died? Why are we equivocating lives? Why is one life more important than another, Dan? You tell us that we're being like that. Why is it okay? It's not okay. Why? Jim's Mowing was in here the other day interviewing, and he's got franchisees who have literally now have no government support because they're on a bridging visa. They're destitute. They have to go and live in his conference center, and they're trying to feed this poor woman. You know why? Because she has a dog washing trailer, Jim's dog washing, and she's not allowed to wash dogs by herself in the trailer. But if you own a dog washing store, like a shop front, you're allowed to. What the hell is that? Or how about the councils can mow the grass in groups, but franchisees of gyms who want to mow by themselves, no, stay home and go broke. That's insane.
It is insane. See, it makes no sense. None of this is making sense.
Look, I hate to be so negative, but I think that we are seeing a fight come up against it, and I want to encourage people who are listening. What can you do? And we talked about calling your members and so on, and asking questions and keeping your eyes open and looking at what's happening in your own state. But we also need to think about the key opinion leaders, the influencers. They've been eerily quiet, so much so that I've had a huge businessman contact me from Australia. One of the biggest businesses in Australia, has thousands of staff, does hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue every year, totally supports us, but can't say a word. He says, I can't say anything in public because his industry is quite left-wing, and he can't afford to. It's not even for him. He has staff. He doesn't want to destroy the livelihoods of all of his staff.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
we need you opinion leaders. We need you leaders to come out and have a rational discussion. Look, the COVID doctors were here. They're doing it. The QCs are coming out. They're doing it. The Deputy Lord Mayor I interviewed in here, he's doing it, of Melbourne. Other people need to come out, not just the Sam Newmans who are out there saying, he's painted as crazy, Sam Newman. We need the normal middle people to come out and say, hey, don't want this anymore. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Enough's enough. Yeah. I mean, it's I don't like saying people hide behind, I just can't do this, because if everybody stood up and said, this is not right, let's take a step back, then it would end tomorrow.
Agreed.
It would end.
Agreed.
But if everybody keeps saying, oh, I can't do this, and, you know, I've got to be careful, well, okay, you're stuck with what you've got. Time to speak up, people.
Let me be an encouragement to you as well. Do you know who I am? I'm a nobody. I'm not even a lawyer. And yet everyone, thousands of people, 100-something thousand people are watching my breakdown of the Omnibus bill. You know why? Because all the brighter minds out there haven't been bothered to do it. And I'm actively yelling at them on LinkedIn saying, come on, you guys are way smarter than me. Please speak, like do an explainer video on this law. You're probably going to find heaps of areas in mine because you're a real lawyer, but no one's doing it. If I can do, I've got no following, you know, I'm just trying to help. And I think a lot of people have expertise in health, like GPs. If you're a GP, come out and tell the stories of, hey, why can't I prescribe my patient hydroxychloroquine? I may be wrong, but maybe I should be allowed to try it. Why are you banning it? Come and tell your stories. Put a video up on Facebook. And if you need a platform, talk to me. I have a TV show. I have the ear of politicians. You know, we'll if you've got a good story and you tell it well, we'll make you famous.
Yeah, it's well, I just keep saying none of it makes sense. And I know certainly that there's been a huge amount of advice given to government officials, particularly health ministers, about ways that this could be dealt with in a safe manner for everyone. But they take no notice. No notice at all. It's, I don't know, we need to, you know, out with the old and in with the new. I think we need a bit of a turnaround. Yeah,
well, I think what you hit on, you know, don't hide behind influencers. As I'm trying to tell you, people look at me like I'm an influencer. I'm not. I'm normal, like you guys. Come on, everyone, speak up. You can do it legally on your phone, on Facebook. Please help me. Come out here and talk.
Yeah, exactly. And I think too, I mean, if everybody comes out of their houses in Victoria, there aren't enough police or Defence Force personnel to put them all away. So if everybody stands up.
Now you're talking about civil disobedience, which Vic Paul, who are listening, I am not suggesting a protest. Thank you, Vic Paul. However, theoretically speaking, Vic Paul, if the BLM march happened, do you remember that? There was 10,000 plus people in Melbourne marching for them.
Yes.
There's 27,000 police officers throughout all of Victoria and how many, 6.8 million or something of us here. There is no way they could stop mass civil disobedience. Now, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think Victorians have the stomach for it, as I've said. I don't think that'll happen. But the point is, why are we living in fear? We are the voice of Victoria. We are the power of Victoria. We set the tone, not the Premier's office. And I say this over and over in my videos. Don't let him set the tone. And you know how you do that? When you're at Woolworths, people are stressed. If you're at the supermarket, the only place we're allowed to go once a day, New South Welshmen, you don't get it. We're only allowed to go out once a day, one person for 2 hours. When you're at Woolworths, hey, be nice to the person in the queue in front of you. Like, you know, let's take back this city. Let's set the tone of this place. And Dan Andrews can go to hell with his fear and division in the press conferences. I just don't listen to his fear anymore. And I think we'll win that way.
Yes, speak up, wherever you are. Speak out a little bit, gently. No civil disobedience, no. But do something. It's time. People have to get together and they have to stand up. There's no two ways about that.
Oh, we're not allowed to get together.
No, that's right, you're not. No. I think in New South Wales it's still a maximum of 20 people at certain things, but, you know, weddings and funerals are different. And I mean, you know, when you hear things like that, the common sense is gone, because does the virus not go for people that are in isolation or small groups, but or if they're in big groups, but only if you're in small groups? I mean, it's all back to front. We should
our virus is very intelligent, Molly. It is nocturnal. It comes out it used to come out at 8:01 p.m., but as of a week ago, it comes out at 9:01 p.m. That's why we will have to huddle into our homes at 9 p.m.
Oh, it's very clever, and it won't cross those borders. Yeah, it's very good. What a smart virus.
We make fun, but I've had the doctors in here showing me the stats that cases did explode in Victoria in a second wave, yes, but deaths did not. Somehow the virus is really struggling to kill us. And that's not taking away from the people who have tragically died like they do all the time. People die all the time. My first career was in medicine. I had a medical clinic for 9 years. I'm very familiar with death. I hated seeing my patients die at very young ages. But coronavirus, as you said, it's similar to the flu. For the stats I've seen, it's a little bit worse than the flu, but it's certainly nothing like the Spanish flu. And it certainly deaths. Do you know why we switched from measuring deaths to cases? Because the deaths aren't there anymore. It's a mess.
Yes. Yeah, it is a mess. It's people have just been badly lied to, hoodwinked. Yeah, it's very sad. It's very sad. Okay. Is there anything else you could suggest, Matt, that could help people move through this a little bit easier so that the fear dissolves a little bit?
For Victorians or others?
Well, for everybody really, but Victoria is tragic at the moment. It's I think it's, I mean, it's almost, it's so serious that people just don't understand what's really being done. I think, in fact, I saw a photo today come through a feed of a big camera, 2 cameras on light poles with loudspeakers. And apparently they're on every corner in the CBD in Melbourne. I mean, I have no way to verify that, but that's what came through on this feed with a photo of this great big box.
Cameras, like facial recognition cameras, do you mean?
Well, I guess it would be, yeah. I mean, I don't actually have a problem with cameras because, you know, I think, you know, it's good. You can get the crooks and you can follow people a bit. But I think having why have they got loudspeakers on them? That makes no sense. Why do you need loudspeakers? And there's 2 cameras, a big one at the top and one on the box. So what is that all about? And are they on every street corner? No,
they're not. I've seen that picture on social media, and I was in the CBD a week and a half ago. I travel all over for work still, and I'm not seeing those. I wish I was, so I could tell you, yeah, it's terrible, but I'm not seeing those. I'm not seeing those trailers with cameras. Yeah. I think we have to be careful, everyone, because we all want to find Dan doing the wrong thing, and he's doing plenty wrong, okay? So let's crucify him for what he's doing wrong. Do not make up stuff, because if you make up stuff, no one's going to believe us when we point to what he is doing wrong. So please just focus on what's actually verified. There's plenty of it. Plenty of it.
Well, it's very hard to get verification when people aren't allowed out more than 5 kilometres, and you know, it's hard to get that verification, I guess. But, you know, obviously that's real, that camera, and they must be around somewhere, I'm assuming.
Of course, somewhere. But that really goes to your point about, hey, what can we do to dissolve the fear? I think, you know, if you go outside now in Melbourne and I asked someone in the interview before this one, how many police have you seen when you go out shopping to check your mask? None. In the whole 2 months of lockdown? None. Why do you wear your mask then? Is it because you think it's like health reasons? No. Why? Oh, you don't want to get fined. But you never see any police. And they go, oh. So the thing is, police rule. There's this theory by Jeremy Bentham called the panopticon. I won't go too deep into it. It might be a bit long, but just the idea of being afraid of being caught, jumping at shadows. And Dan is relying on this now. If you look at his press conferences, I was a big believer in him, and I was trying to defend him and support him just on a human level, not on a policy level. But he's gone so far now where the way he treats us is more akin to an abuser relationship. And he's starting to really use fear to divide us. And I think we have to be careful not to allow ourselves to get into that fear, even when we're fighting him, because then he's still winning. We have to make sure, when I say let's stand together as Victorians, and I made a video called I Don't Stand with Dan, I Stand with Victoria. The reason is I think he would be most annoyed if we were not afraid of him or of the virus. I think if we were to come against him and say, you're an idiot, Dan, I don't think that would hurt him at all. But I think what would really hurt Dan is if we got on with our lives, if we were mature, if we were happy. I mean, happy in the sense that we just refused to have his fear. We live in hope, and we started to treat each other well, I think that would piss him off no end. Because I think what you'd start to see is society start to function. Little bits of disobedience would happen here and there, like when I took my daughter to the swing across the road in quiet suburban neighborhood, illegally, I might add. I pushed her on the swing. Stuff like that. We're starting to see sparks of hope within the community. By being a bit more hopeful. So let's dissolve the fear and remember that he doesn't set what Victoria is. I know it looks like that, but he can't actually control us as much as he's trying to at the end of the day. You know, there's a quote by Leonard Hayes, I think his name was. He was a judge in the US, and he said, liberty lies within the hearts of men and women, and no constitution, no law, and no police, nothing can revive it when it dies there. And in the same way, no constitution, no law, no executive can kill it when it lives there. So we need to make sure that we remember that we have that power.
Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah, we do have the power. That's right. Okay, Matt, thank you. That's been really interesting, and I really enjoy your balanced approach.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great. What is your website, Matt, so people can go and have a look and follow you?
Probably just head to Discernible, which is, there's two ways of spelling discernible for some reason. Anyway, I chose the A version, so just discern and then able. I'm on Facebook, not Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram. But yeah, I have a TV show as well, which is cool, that I post on there with, it's called, what's it called? It was called Not the Project, as I think I already told you, because we're trying to fight the project. We've renamed it to the People's Project. But we have people on, like we have Craig Kelly on Friday. We have all the COVID doctors on. We have just incredible people. You can find me there. And hey, thank you so much, Molly, for having me on. I hope it helped someone out there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it will, Matt. It's certainly your balanced approach, I think, is very calming. I found it calming. And, you know, it's good to know that, you know, like when I saw that photo of the camera with the loudspeakers, I just went back and said, can this be verified, please? Nobody gets back to me. So it's, I guess people perhaps like, they just put stuff out there and then move on to the next thing. So you're left sort of going, is this real? Is it not real? How do we respond? Do we do anything? Do we do nothing? So
well, it's like the children thing. They can take your children thing. That's that's been misrepresented.
Yeah. So they won't just come into your house and take your kids.
Hopefully
Unless,
not.
Yeah. I mean, you can understand if there's a serious reason. I can understand that at any time. Children need to be safe. But yeah. So thank you for your balanced approach, Matt. It's been wonderful, and your information is enormously valuable. Thank you. Thank you for coming on tonight.
Thank you, Molly. Pleasure.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you've gained as much from this talk as I certainly have. Yeah, thank you. Stay well, stay aware and awake, and let's get our country back onto a good economic and healthy footing. Good night, everyone.